Welcome everybody, and especially Myra. Is it Myra?
Mariah. That's Mariah.
Okay. So how's everybody? Is there any special dreams?
I woke up at 4 o'clock and I felt like every cell in my body was shifting.
Yeah.
It was, and I was really, excuse me, in my body, and I saw that it's real. Sri Aurobindo's idea of bringing the light in, carving out the dark, going back up, bringing in deeper, higher, deeper, higher, deeper. I think it could be scientifically measured.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how real it felt to me. But now I went back into my head.
Well, you bounce back and forth. And 4 o'clock in the morning, for many people it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's a special download time. So it's when you're particularly open to
really powerful
frequencies.
Experience.
Yeah, after I first learned the Inca work, about March of this year, I would be woken up every morning at 4 o'clock, and I'd do the Inca practices for an hour, and until it was like the whole body became activated, and after a while it just becomes automatic. But how many of you feel that, like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, like something wakes you up and you just feel this download?
Yeah.
What does the download feel like?
This tingling, vibration, very blissful. The whole body is like buzzing.
You get buzzes.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
So the hours just before sunrise is when the prana is the strongest. So the body is responding to the prana in the atmosphere, and then its own kundalini gets activated.
Yeah. And what?
The kundalini energy, the fire of the spirit within the body, starts awakening.
Oh, I just wake up and I have to go back to sleep.
Yeah. Well, when you wake up at that time, it's a very potent time. So some of the practices, like what we did yesterday, if you can just do that for 10 minutes and then go back to sleep, you'll notice that you feel very different. A lot of things get cleared out. It's great for your health because you're vibrating differently. And then you're just, clearing a lot more than you could normally. Your dreams are different. The second time you wake up. Yeah.
I had a question. The work that we did in India, the hands-on energy work, what was the origin of that work? Because I was a participant.
The Ilahinur.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, that developed in Turkey after experiences I had in Hawaii with the dolphins and the whales.
Right.
And so then Ra was communicating about different aspects of consciousness that are linked with different parts of the brain. And so gradually this work pieced together.
I was curious how you got into the Inca work, from that,
Yeah, so the Ilahinur work was independent of the Inca work. But then when the Inca work came, it just fit together so well, because the Inca work allows access to the three worlds in a much more refined way. And then when you're integrating the three aspects of the self, it happens much easier.
Cool.
So it's like you just link up with multidimensional consciousness within the body, and then with subtle bodies.
Did that come through something you read, or did you experience that with somebody? Both.
Both. And it's basically a transmission from Ra and the ancient Egyptian tradition.
Cool.
So the mystery schools that were used back then to align the Merkaba with the higher bodies, and then to eventually move into physical immortality. Because this is a possibility for us now. It's like we talk about anti-aging and bypassing the barriers of the subconscious mind that keeps us trapped in a lower vibration of duality. And as that bypasses, then the new frequencies can be easily assimilated. And then naturally, as the DNA gets activated, we move into more and more of an activation of the potential in the DNA, which is huge. So all the divine potential is here right now. It's just that it's not being used. And so as that opens up more and more, we're designed for immortality, we're designed for freedom, we're designed for multidimensional consciousness.
Yeah, the research I've done on that, because it's part of the Homo Spiritus trip, is that if you take the human cells and if you have an environment that has all the nutrients the cell needs and it removes all the waste products so that the environment stays as pristine as possible, cellular environment, human cells as they are now will continue to duplicate. They don't die.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of whether you're getting the right information that keeps the cell moving and getting the right nutrients and getting the right, but to do that is quite along with everything else that's tied in with that on the consciousness levels and the agreements. But it already shows that we're capable of that, and that has to do with the telomeres and all that stuff. And
here in Taoist, you have this opportunity to really imbibe the higher frequencies of light and the prana around you. It's such a powerful vortex of light here. And then, Deneen and I were talking earlier this morning about superfoods. David Wolf does a lot about this.
David Wolf, yeah.
And, just nourishing the body for cellular rejuvenation.
That's what my chocolate does. You'll learn about that later today.
Okay.
It's medicine as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so, that's one level. And then, the Lahinur, the Inca work, multidimensional contact, working with our own higher self and lower self. So, most people talk about the higher self, but the lower self is equally important. So, by lower self, I don't mean the lower unconscious self. I mean the cellular consciousness that's latent within the body. So, it's very intelligent. Our bodies are more intelligent than our minds. We forget that.
It never lies either. The body never lies.
No. And the body has access to all the information you'll ever need. Except the mind clamps it down. It's like a reducing valve based on our belief systems. And whatever our belief systems are can be limiting. So as we let go of all belief systems, we enter into the mystery where we can listen to the body, respond to whatever the circumstances are in this moment, and you have access to everything you need. Whether it's health, whether it's abundance, whether it's information, and whether it's co-creation of a new planet. So, I feel like for so many thousands of years we've labored under the illusion of duality, and it's become a very strong belief system that I'm separate from you, I'm separate from the earth, I'm separate from God. And that whole belief system is crumbling. And as that happens, there's a new awareness that's flooding through the cells. And this is waking us up to immortality also. So this is a science, like in the Hindu tradition with the yogic practices. Many yogis still live up in the mountains in bodies that are 2,000, 3,000 years old. I've met one or two of them, and it's like they look like ordinary beings. The vibration frequency is different. You can touch them, feel them, eat with them, drink with them, but the bodies are different because they're not aging due to unconscious programs. And as we are letting go of our own programs, that's gradually happening. Most of the time we don't realize it until 100 years have passed by and you're still looking the same. So somehow, I'm not feeling that ache and pain anymore. Or I'm not thinking in terms of the old stories. I'm not attached to the stories of the past. And then suddenly you realize, 200 years have gone by and life has changed around you, and you're different. And now there's an opportunity. This is like the pivotal point, where enough humans are tuned in to the new possibility, to go beyond the subconscious programs, that we can actually break through into a collective awakening, collective immortality, activating the full potential of the DNA, and the Homo luminous. So this isn't a dream anymore. So even 10 years, 15 years ago, it was a dream.
Yeah.
But now the frequencies are changing. So it's happening.
How are you basing that? I mean, I'm in agreement, but what are you using as benchmarks to say, it looks like it has shifted, something that you
Right.
might call definitive, measurable,
Yeah.
more than just, that's a nice experience, but becomes, consistent.
For me, it's been like Joe was asking about Ilahi Nur. It's a field. And the practices we've been doing with Ilahi Nur to attune to that field, I can notice the field itself has changed.
Yeah, okay.
Because, there's subtle connections that start happening. And it's a collective field, so you can tune into that collective field that goes far beyond a human consciousness. It's the consciousness of what's possible from the level of the divine human. So Sri Aurobindo talks about the stages, the animal human, and then the human human, going from the instinctive to the rational mind, and then from the human human to the divine human, from rational mind to the cellular mind, which is linked also with the intuitive mind, and then from there to the supramental human, which is multidimensional. This is God in form. So as consciousness changes, as we tune into different levels of the mind, you can also tune into the field.
So it's more just reading the field.
So it's the reading of the field, and also noticing how that field imprints on human culture and society. So, it's paradoxical, but it seems on some level that things are falling apart. But that's also part of the imprinting of the supramental into matter. Because the falling apart is a response to the unified field, stirring and breaking up old patterns, bringing them to the surface so it can be unified. And so he talked about the supramental catastrophe, which isn't about death and doomsday. It's about a unified force that's penetrating so deeply into the heart of matter, into the deepest unconscious or inconscient energy systems, that it's stirring up everything that's shadowed. And we see this in the world around us. All our shadowed systems, economic, political systems, social systems, all the illusions of war, greed, oppression, all that's being challenged. And more people are waking up. The refugee crisis, the so-called crisis. How many people are responding, opening their hearts to this? All over Europe. The governments are, trying to shut down their borders. But meanwhile, the people are saying enough of this. They belong in the human family. And they're bringing food, they're opening their homes, they're vetoing what their governments have decreed. So this is the awakening. And this is all part of the response to the supramental energies that are entering in.
Like, we've all heard people say, this is apocalyptic times, right? But if you look at the real meaning of that word, it's not Armageddon level destruction, and hail and brimstone, all that stuff. It means to lift the veils, to
Mm.
take them apart, to take the veils down.
Right.
So we are definitely in apocalyptic times, but in
Mm.
its original meaning, not the Christian.
Right.
We're all gonna die, kind of thing.
And the Inca term for this is Pachacuti.
Pachacuti.
Many people translate this as, apocalypse and doomsday, but it literally means turning around,
Turning around.
turning upside down. So what's being turned upside down is not the earth, but it's the earth system, it's our illusions. And so when you turn the illusion upside down, what do you have?
Truth.
So truth is being revealed in all kinds of ways. So anything that's not resonating to truth is going to be revealed now. Whether it's in our own personal agendas, our own inner lives, or global events.
I just, as you're talking, I'm just getting, because I met Barbara and John Perkins
Okay.
together at a workshop.
Barbara Mark Sutter?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what led me to Hummingbird. But it's interesting that what Barbara was doing with John is that they were kind of co-creating. John is very much tied into the whole shamanic world, and she was tying that into her work of evolutionary consciousness, And as you're talking, you're articulating some of the things that they were trying to explain, how this ancient wisdom is coming together now, and with this, and then of course, the basis of a lot of what you're talking about is serious work, which
Yeah.
I'm just barely becoming familiar with,
Yeah.
which you're very familiar with,
Yeah. It is serious work, but it doesn't have to be
Right.
difficult.
Right. But it's very comprehensive.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah. That's the paradox. It can be joyful. It can be the the most exciting thing that ever happened on the planet.
Absolutely.
And that's why we chose to be here. To be born in this time, to face the challenges that we're facing, to overcome those challenges, to grow into God.
And I didn't say serious, I said series work. Siri Aurobindo's work.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Series Aurobindo's work is,
Right.
where we both.
Yeah. Are you all familiar with Sri Aurobindo?
I don't think everybody's familiar.
No, I'll just
He goes way back. He was one of the first, wasn't he,
Yeah.
to start
yeah.
that wave of bringing that energy into the Western so-called civilization.
Well, for those who are not familiar, Sri Aurobindo and his spiritual partner, known as the Mother, who is actually French, Mira Alfassa, went to India, joined with Sri Aurobindo in this work. There was about Sri Aurobindo started off as a freedom fighter in India. So he was with Gandhi, Nehru, the whole clan. And then he was jailed. He was in jail for a year by the British. And during that time he had an awakening. And he saw everything as divine. So he looked at the faces of his jailers, and there was, the divine. All the circumstances of his life were just the divine. And from that space, he awakened to something different. And he started exploring the yogic path and went deeper and deeper into than almost anybody at that time. And he talks about different levels of awakening. We think that the higher self, the higher realms, is also unfamiliar to us. We lump it all into one thing.
Right.
But he went very deeply into examining the different layers and experiences of these different aspects of consciousness. So he talks about 5 layers of the mind, for instance, beyond the rational mind. So, so the lower self, the subconscious, is linked with the cellular mind, the mind of the cells. Then you have the rational mind, which is linked with our linear consciousness, the middle world. And then in the upper worlds, he talks about a further 5 or 6 different layers. So there's the higher mind, where you're beginning to see beyond the illusion. So you're starting to resonate to the higher fields. You're imprinted with something beyond your personal self. Then you have the illumined mind, where you're seeing the eagle's eye perspective. So it's like you're stepping out of your personal identity, you're connecting with the global identity, the cosmic identity. You're seeing a different way of being. And then the next level of the mind is the intuitive mind, where you're not just seeing it, you're becoming it.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I look at you, I become you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm entering into you and see more of you than you can see of yourself. Because I'm, looking from that intuitive level of the mind. I'm
So is this
seeing
my best side? Or is this my best side? No?
There's no sides.
All right.
There's no sides. There's no brain.
Sorry.
And then you're going beyond that to the overmind, which is the archetypal level. So what Plato would talk about, the world of ideas beyond form. So it's the level of creation from which the divine enters into creation and creates these archetypes and forms which then give birth to different species and different levels of being throughout the universe. So at that level, you're on the level of the gods. So the gods and goddesses and all mythologies are operating from that level of the mind. It's a very powerful, creative level. And then beyond that, and he's the first one who talks about this, there's a supramental level. And this is just touching that space which is beyond form, beyond time, beyond space, beyond all creation. So it's the realm of the self, pure consciousness, which is first entering into creation, the beginnings of time and space, which then become the holding pattern for the rest of creation to happen. So that level of awareness, when it's stepped down into creation and matter, has so much power. It's that, level of energy that creates the Big Bang, and the Big Bang in each moment. Paul Laviolette, an astrophysicist, talks about creation happening from the centers of galaxies. Not just once at the Big Bang, but every time there's a galactic superwave, it's a wave of creation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the wave of creation that we tap into during these times of shift, during these 3 days of darkness. That we, as the Creator, enter into creation. And holding them both together within human bodies. So this is the potential, the supramental field being fully manifested in the body. And then the body itself, matter coming into resonance with spirit as one with spirit. So this is not something that's, just a workshop thing. You come to a workshop and you're supramentalized. This is serious work. And it's,
Not for the faint of heart.
but it's happening collectively. So what Sri Aurobindo and the mother were about was to anchor this deep into the cells of the body, in the recognition that if it could come through one single physical body, it actually penetrates into all bodies, all matter, because all matter is connected on this level. So the great work of the mother after Sri Aurobindo died in 1956 was to anchor this through her body into the collective field of matter. And then since then, it's been 60 years. Since then, the supramental field has been awakening within matter, within creation, within our human, political, economic, social systems. And we're experiencing this. So, look at the world 60 years ago, and look at where we are now. It's totally different. We have transformed so much already. And the supramental now is, it's crossed a certain threshold, and it's becoming faster. It's becoming an exponential expansion. Even just a month ago, as GW was saying, we crossed a certain threshold where we collectively have chosen as a species not to allow oppression, domination, and fear anymore. So things like 9/11 cannot happen anymore because the human collective is saying enough. We need truth. No more cover-ups. No more control, domination, oppression of the 99% by the 1% in an attempt to rule and take over through mind control. The mind cannot be controlled anymore because we are waking up. So this is a change that's happening. So this is a supramental field beginning to penetrate into the field of matter. And it's the beginning. There's much more to come. And within our lifetime, in fact, I would say within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be seeing so much significant change that it'll be mind-boggling. Because the way the magnetic fields are collapsing, and this is what we talked about yesterday, the point of magnetic reversal could happen just like that. It could happen within the next 3-4 years. And as that happens, then a new level of creation begins. A new descent of our higher self into the field of matter, collectively. And not just human species, but all species. We're also reconnecting with the galactic families. And we talked about this the other day.
Being Alliance and Space Program and all that stuff. Yeah.
And the US government and other governments have been involved in this for a long time, but mostly on the dark side.
Right.
And now that cannot be tolerated in this new frequency. There's been a quarantine of that level of galactic control. So now what's happening is that there's beings who have been kind of on the periphery watching and observing, who are being invited to participate more fully. Light beings from across the galaxies who have the technologies, who have the abilities, and who have the power to actually step into our history at this time with our conscious invitation. We are part of that. We are not separate from that either. So each of us has roots going back into galactic history. Pleiadian, Arcturian, Andromedan, whatever, Valerian, and many star systems, many different roles and times. And now it's like this Earth is a schoolhouse for assimilating all these different species, coexisting, cooperating. Not just human species, but all species on this Earth. Millions of life forms, in animal forms, reptilian forms, trees and amphibians and fish and mammals, all beginning, the web of life has always existed, but we're stepping into a new order of this web of life. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, time to be around.
So, that's why so many new children are being born from across the galaxies, who hold these frequencies, who are here to anchor these frequencies. And we're awakening to this in ways that were not possible before.
One of the things I got was, I don't remember exactly when, but Sophia Ogaya no longer is allowing any souls that are operating in a third-dimensional consciousness or duality consciousness to incarnate on the planet. That door has been closed.
Yeah.
And at least last year I got that sense, and others have been talking about that as well. So that's another example. When we look at benchmarks, what are the indicators that something is really going? That was one of them.
We've actually shifted from third-dimensional consciousness already into fifth dimension. This was the 2 timelines we were talking about yesterday. The timeline that has to do with doomsday, death and destruction, which was a very strong possibility up until 2-3 years ago. There's a third dimensional timeline which is based upon duality and separation and the outcome of that, the karma resulting from that.
Right, and then dealing with duality and separation is our own individual responsibility. I mean, that's what the work that we have to do within ourselves to get ready for this, as this is happening. So people might intellectually understand what you're saying, okay? But as far as what I know about this work is you have to do your own work around, you know, understanding the illusion of separation and this concept of duality, you know. Then we can get out there and start talking about, you know, spaceships coming down and you know, and trying to communicate with us. Because they're not going to communicate with us.
They cannot communicate with us unless we are able to connect on that level of consciousness.
Exactly.
Unless it's the low level,
Right.
you know, space beings who are not needed anymore.
Barbara talks about that also a lot. Because she's out there with talking with these, you know, these government agencies and these people that are investigating, you know, these extraterrestrials trying to communicate with us.
Yeah.
She talks about it in that same way that you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. So
This is really good.
the work we'll be doing with Ilahinur,
Mhm.
you know, this is a very easy way to begin to downstep those higher frequencies into the body. It's because this field is already here, and we can tap into this field. And so it's linking up with the higher mind or the higher self, with the middle self and the lower self through different mechanisms in the brain which are attuned to these different states of consciousness. So we're just linking them together, aligning them. So, you know, as you do this, maybe it's a 5-minute treatment, and you start to open up to those levels of the self. So it's not like you have to spend years training, meditating, and preparing. It's here. It's something our bodies are designed for. We can open to this now. So the Ilahinur work and the Inca work are a complement. They work together to assist in this complete download of divine self. You know, so we talk. Many of us, when we talk about the divine self, still have this subtle duality. So that's divine. This is human. That's heaven. This is earth. Spirit and matter. But no longer is it a duality. Spirit, matter. You know, you cannot distinguish anymore. These bodies are spirit. The earth is a paradise. You know, it's just a matter of seeing it, shifting our inner perspective so you can see what's out there. So what's out there, if I see this from eyes of duality, I create duality. You know, so I'm responsible for that. I'm a co-creator of duality, if that is my inner vision. And as soon as I change that inner vision, that inner perception, then everything is different. I can no longer be in judgment. I can no longer be in fear. Hey, Deva.
Welcome.
One thing that I've noticed, and I guess it might be a marker, is, you know, powers that were, or I guess even to the darkness in any of us, if there's an agenda, according to the intention, it's much more transparent. You know, it becomes obvious. To me, anyway. It's like, I thought at first I was just seeing it, but then I began to realize, you know, in the whole of it, that it's like, it can't be hidden.
And more people are seeing it now.
You know, it's one of the paradoxes or ironies for the Kabbalah, the Illuminati, is that they've always operated behind the scenes so that you could manipulate from an occulted point of view, because if you're not aware of what's going on, you're just accepting it, you don't know what's happening. And they wanted to come forth so that they could bring forth their agenda, our agenda, their agenda. Okay, in the sense of that timeline. But what happens is when you bring that out in the light, people wake up and go, "Hey, oh, so that's what's going on." No, I'm not interested in that now. So it actually is self-defeating, because when you bring light to that so-called darkness, it gets revealed and cannot remain in its position of power or manipulation on a subconscious level, because now it's in full consciousness, and everybody's like, "Wait a second, this doesn't smell right. This doesn't look right. What the heck?"
And exactly, that's the purpose
Yeah.
of these agendas, because it's a reflection of our own inner personal agendas. So it's like, okay, here's my shadow reflected out there. What does it tell me about myself? And am I now willing to transcend that shadow aspect of me, which is reflected out there, and unify with the light? That's the supramental field. So the supramental field is pressing in so deeply and so strongly on the shadow aspects of the one reality of the earth, that it's bringing it to light, transforming it, and breaking down everything, all the illusions. So that's why we're seeing it so much more. It's like that's why it's being revealed. So it's not that dark is getting stronger, which can be an apparent reality, but dark is simply being released and transformed. So we're talking about the Christ. This is the return of the Christ. This is the Christ consciousness awakening within matter. So it's a powerful time.
Yeah.
And if we can have simple tools to assist in this, that's what we're about. Yeah, so before you came, you're just talking about Sri Aurobindo and the supramental descent, and this time in the last 60 years when everything has changed. And the fact that if things have changed gradually stronger and stronger, from here on out it's going to be that much more intense. So the next few years we're going to see so many changes, so much transformation on so many levels, that is going to blow our minds, literally.
So, let's get our minds blown.
Yeah.
Our brains blown.
Kiara, are you talking about like personal transformation is going to be changed within a few years? And that you're not talking about what's going on in the news and all of that.
That changing too.
All of it.
But it sucks. I mean, what's going on is really bad. But you're not talking about that.
Okay, I'll give you a perspective on this. So what you hear on the news is one tiny slice of reality. It's the visible aspect that certain groups have chosen to highlight in order to create fear amongst people. Now there's something else happening that's much more invisible and much more hopeful. So if you're not reading the news, if you're not listening to the radio or television, if you're just feeling directly into the collective human field, you get a completely different picture. People are much more kind, compassionate, resourceful, hopeful, and awake than ever before. They're able to respond much more easily and powerfully to catastrophes. Look what happens in Nepal. You have an earthquake. Millions of people focus their attention there in compassion and help. Syria, another story. People worldwide are waking up and recognizing that what's happening in Syria is not separate from what our responsibility is in our country. So we're becoming a global family. So what you hear on the news is designed to create insulation, to create fear, to create barriers, and to destroy hope. And there's a reason for all that. But underneath all that, there's a completely different reality, and that's the reality we're talking about.
Okay.
One of the indicators, Brzezinski used to be Jimmy Carter's Secretary of State or whatever he was. 2 years ago he said this. He said he was talking to the cronies, you know, the powers that used to be, instead of the powers that were. I love that. Basically saying, guys, population's onto us. Meaning that they're now not capable of controlling, manipulating, and inculcating the fear response, which you know is a food for that. And he was, he's well placed in that area, so he knows what he was basically saying. Jigs up, guys. You must start getting your affairs in order. But
There
he was one of
cannot
the first
be
to acknowledge that.
another attempt at a 9/11 type event.
It's already tried a couple of these World War III things, and they've all been stopped because it's just not in the consciousness to support that anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a book I was reading. It was written by a CIA analyst. He was investigating 80 different incidents where nuclear war was averted. And what happened is that, and it's the US, Russia, Iran, whoever, not Iran because they don't have nuclear capability, but mostly the US, Israel. They'd launch off a nuclear weapon towards someone else. And it would fly, suddenly dematerialize, or disappear from the silos. They'd press the button and then wonder, nothing's happening. How come nothing's happening? Or it would go land somewhere, and then it would be a dud, nothing inside it. Or someone would try to press the button, but this happened just last year, this year. After the crisis in the Ukraine, whoever the military cabal was decided, okay, let's send some limited nuclear weaponry and in that area, and then try and pin it on Putin. So the person who was responsible for pressing the red button said no, and she was court-martialed for it. But then she blew it up and revealed what was happening, so it became a big embarrassment for the military. So, it's like, and so many things are happening because we have decided on a collective level that no more nuclear war. And it's not just humans, but it also affects other races. It affects other planets in our solar system. It affects the whole galaxy on a certain level. And the galactic family is saying, we cannot allow this. And they're responsible for preventing these events. So they know how to do this. They have their advanced technologies. They can dematerialize a missile in midair. They can dissipate nuclear energies. They can do something with Chernobyl, with Fukushima, just like that. And now, because human consciousness is saying yes to this, we're going to see this. And what's already in the seas, I don't know how many of you are aware, but there's a huge dead zone in the middle of the Pacific from the radiation of Fukushima, which has killed off, thousands of square miles of everything that exists there. A lot of mutations of species. It's affected marine mammals, dolphins, whales, turtles, seals. It's affected human populations. What happened in this country is, rather than addressing it, the FDA or whoever makes up all these stories just decided to up-level the acceptable dose of radiation. So now it's safe. But all this can be reversed, and it is being reversed, because radioactivity is a frequency. It's a cosmic frequency. It's gamma rays, cosmic rays, all these plutonium, heavy metals. When when the potency, when the potential energy within this can be released, it's the potential to create enormous transformation. So, like, who was it when the first nuclear bomb went off, was saying that if that energy that's within the hydrogen bomb can be harnessed for the good of humanity, you'll be seeing the second reign of fire. It's the fire of the human heart. It's the fire of love being rebirthed within humanity. I mean, I'm paraphrasing this. But basically what he was saying, and I forget even who was saying this, but it's really, as long as we cannot hold the vibration of this frequency, the radioactivity can kill us. As we begin to hold this frequency, that same radioactivity can transform us. And that's what's happening on the planet today. So Mother Earth is taking this radioactivity, she's transforming this through her body, and later we'll learn how to do this. It's a powerful process from the Q'ero tradition, transforming Ucha into a much stronger consciousness of unity. So that's already happening. So in response to your question, Joe, the invisible is much stronger and much more hopeful than what you read in the news. People are hypnotized by the news. And it's the last gasp of the controlling elite to try and control people's minds through fear. But that's not working anymore. And that's changing very quickly. So many people are feeling this already inside, that there's no dread, there's no fear, there's no sense of hopelessness anymore. Something is coming alive. You know this, you feel this deeply. Why is it? And then Spirit opens up the doorways.
It's a great line from one of the music songs I like, and it says, I've been to hell and back. I've been to hell and back again so many times. It kind of bores me. It's at a certain point you go, so what? Big deal.
Hell is boring. You've had too much of it on the planet.
I also like to call this, what they call it, the last call. When they're closing the bar down and get your drinks in before they close. This is the last gasp of a really incredibly intense, dense, third-dimensional experiment. It isn't going to be around for many souls, not on this planet. It takes a while to develop. So I see it as that what you see coming out is this is the last ditch, time when people can get their experiences in before it just isn't available.
Right.
And like you say, there's this last call. That's it. After this point, not available.
So come on everybody, if you want to experience death and destruction and rage and depression, now's the time. It's the only time you have left. Yeah.
Can I ask, what's happening with memory? I'm just a blank slate sometimes.
Well, good question. We talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
So our memories, so we have many different bodies nested together. So there's a physical body, the emotional, mental, and various layers of higher soul causal bodies. And they're all connected, linked together through electromagnetic fields. Now the magnetic fields of the Earth are collapsing. They're very rapidly weakening, and they come to a zero point where the connections between the bodies are being disconnected. It's already happening. And as that happens, we're tending to lose our minds, feel a little bit disoriented, emotional upheavals, physical challenges, immune system breakdowns. All these things are a consequence of the disconnection. But what's also being disconnected is the matrix of the collective unconsciousness that we've carried in our genes for thousands of years. So the only way that this matrix can be dissolved is through a reversal of the magnetic fields of the Earth. So this process is starting already. And so our identities are often based on our memories. And so as those memories collapse, our identities are also collapsing. Our sense of being locked into a human personality with a story is breaking apart. So what's happening in consequence is that our true identity, our true memory, which is based on the causal body, which is based on memories that go beyond one incarnation to our soul memory. We're reconnecting with that. So yes, one layer of memory is breaking apart, which we tend to identify with. And then our soul memories are being reconnected. And this is happening to everyone. So how many people are forgetting names and faces and details of things? It's not needed anymore. I can always ask somebody, can you tell me your name again, please? Sometimes I forget my own name. Because that's not the story anymore. That's not the identity anymore. When you're living in these other identities, you don't need a name, you're just pure consciousness. When you talked about the intuitive mind, I become you. So there's no separation, there's no naming. I am experiencing you, as an essence. So this is the progression now. So more and more we'll see a certain level of forgetfulness, but it's also a certain level of remembrance at the same time. And in some parts of the world this is happening more so. So there's what's called the North, I forget the name here, the South Atlantic anomaly. Anyway, it's a region pretty much of South America where the magnetic fields are much weaker than elsewhere. And when the magnetic fields are weaker, it means that transformation happens quicker. The Russian scientists have made a correlation between lowered magnetic fields and the increase of psychic abilities, or extrasensory perceptions. So people are becoming awake to higher realities, to more of who you are. So there's certain parts of the world where it's stronger, some places where it's weaker. In this part of the world it's actually stronger, relatively speaking. Which is why there's more resistance at this time. But it's breaking down. And it's almost like it's all intelligent. Mother Earth is a highly intelligent being. She can shift these fields around to where it's needed, to where things need to be opened up. So in the Middle East, it's the same thing. The magnetic fields are relatively stronger and forcing things to the surface. So wherever it needs to be forced to the surface, that's what's happening. Wherever there's where people are open and ripe for transformation, the magnetic fields are weakening. And eventually we're preparing for a time where the whole planet's magnetic field drops to close to zero. So right now there's not just a single magnetic polarity, there's 2 or 3 axes of polarity. And that basically these fields cancel themselves out until you basically have zero polarity. And then you have a certain period of time, a very short period of time, when everything drops away. It's like a cocoon stage for a caterpillar. In this 3 days of darkness, as the Incas talk about, or the Mayas talk about. And within this time, from the chrysalis comes the butterfly, the human butterfly, new species emerging on the planet, the divine human entering into the physical body. So it's literally a new species existing within our current species. Just like the butterfly exists within the caterpillar already. But in the metamorphosis, new DNA gets activated, the old DNA collapses, and you have the butterfly. So all this has to do with magnetic fields. And that's the mechanism through which this happens. And this is a cyclical process. So yesterday we were talking about an approximately 12,000 year cycle in which evolution makes these spontaneous, very powerful quantum jumps. And we are right at that critical point. In the Hindu tradition we talk about the yugas. So going through the 4 yugas. The Satya Yuga, which is the age of light, slowly going down, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. The Kali Yuga being the age of darkness, furthest away from the light. But then something happens. From the deepest depth of the Kali Yuga, you suddenly emerge into the Satya Yuga. It's not gradual. The gradual descent and then a sudden ascent. And that sudden ascent has to do with the reversal of the magnetic fields. And so suddenly you have this collapsing of the whole matrix, which has kept us in darkness, which is really, it's not something out there, it's within a collective consciousness. And then from that, we enter the age of light. So it could be just 2 or 3 years away from the emerging Satya Yuga. And according to G.W. Hardin, this is already happening. So I was telling people yesterday, G.W. is a friend of mine who used to work with the NSA. And so they're mapping human trends. So yes, they're snooping on everybody, but that's only one aspect of what they do. As they collect all this data, it's the ability to predict the future based on current trends. And so what they're saying is that we've entered a time now where collective human consciousness is awake. No longer are we able to stand by and experience global events such as what happened with 9/11, or with nuclear devastation, or with human tragedies. We're saying enough of that, it's time to support each other compassionately. So things are accelerating. And much of what I see as the agent of transformation is the Ilahi Nur field. It is a supramental field, it's the same thing. So the Ilahi Nur work, Ilahi Nur means divine light, but it's a unified light. It's not light as the opposite of darkness. It's the light that comes in to deep into the subconscious, transforms it, brings it into light so that there's no shadow. That's awakening. And that's when we activate these higher aspects of the mind to become the divine human.
So how do we do that?
Oh, that's what you're going to be here for. I learned something, I don't know if you guys have heard this, about the metaphor of the caterpillar butterfly, and it's always a nice transition. Well, they found out something really interesting. When the DNA kicks in for the butterfly, and they call them imaginal, I love this, imaginal cells, which are the new cells of the new body. When they first come out, the caterpillar attacks those cells because the caterpillar's defense system, the immune system, which is still intact at that point, sees the imaginal cells as not self, which is what the immune system is designed to do, is to kill off non-self cells. So it's an interesting, again, another little piece of how at first there's going to be chaos in there. There's going to be reaction and stuff. Resistance. And at some point, the imaginal cells are just proliferating so much, and of course the caterpillar's immune system is degrading, that it just, there's a turning point. And then the butterfly asserts itself to its full measure.
So that's why our immune systems are going through so much cancer, immune disorders, all that stuff. It's part of the metamorphosis process.
Yeah.
For several months, I was feeling extremely dizzy, and my memory was really, really bad. And then that stopped just a few weeks ago. And so I'm suspecting that my body caught up. Do you know? That because I'm not so dizzy anymore, my mind's a little bit better. So with all the energies that have been coming in, my body's been reeling, and now it feels like it's it's stabilized,
Yeah,
and
you've
then the
integrated
next
that.
wave will come, and then, so is that
Yeah.
accurate, do you think?
Yeah, I would think so. It's normal. I mean, a lot of people are going through this dizziness,
Mhm.
physical system breakdowns,
But for it to
emotional
have stopped,
upheavals, and there's waves.
yeah.
So there's a wave, and you integrate that. It may
Mhm.
take a few months,
Mhm.
and then there's the next wave,
Yeah.
and you integrate that. But each time your frequency
Mhm.
is stronger,
Yeah.
and you're able to anchor the soul
Mhm.
that
That's
much
what I-
more. Any other burning questions?
I have a statement.
Yeah.
I think hell is hell. I don't think it's boring. It's hell.
Lives up to its name.
It's true. And we don't need it anymore.
No, no. And all you're talking about, all the people of the world are eventually going to awaken.
Mm.
Is that what you're talking about?
All those who choose to. And
The what?
most people do choose to.
Those that choose.
Yeah.
Oh,
And most people don't think they have a choice. Most people have become accustomed to thinking of themselves as victims. But that's changing. Now people are able to choose more directly. And 99% of people, all people, are choosing wellness.
oh, that's wonderful.
The version of the 99% versus the 99
Yeah.
victim percent.
Right.
Versus 99. We're going home.
They go
Right
on.
here. Yeah, in other words,
Yeah.
it's right here, home.
Yeah.
Make it home again.
We're making this home.
Oh, one other thing I just remembered as an indicator. David Hawkins' work,
Yeah.
right? Back and using muscle testing or kinesiology for
It's
calibrating
The
consciousness.
whole jacket.
He was talking about around 1987 is when, for the first time in his tracking of world consciousness, it moved over 200 on his scale. And his scale 200 and up is all life enhancing.
Mm.
He has a logarithmic scale that calibrates consciousness, and anything below 200 is life negating. And I think he said the world was operating for a long time around 180, somewhere in that ballpark, for centuries. And he was wondering back then when he was first getting into this, whether or not we were really going to make it. Because if we didn't get over the 200, then there was going to be a catastrophic event, Earth level events. But it did shift. It was like 201, 203, like just over the border. And he was like, "Whew, okay, that means," and you don't go back, because as you know, it's a one-way transformation.
Yeah.
That he then knew that we were, even though it looked pretty grim back then in a lot of ways, that the collective consciousness had made the choice that we were going to move in the direction of embracing life. And so that was one of the other indicators that I was tracking.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing about the scale of consciousness. For those of you who are not aware, it's a logarithmic scale. So once you begin to cross 200 into more life-enhancing frequencies, the higher up you go on the scale, you counterbalance that much more. So, for instance, if you're 300 on the scale, you counterbalance maybe 1,000 people who are below 200. When you get to 400, you're counterbalancing 1 million people. When you get to 500 or 600, it's 10 million people. So one person at 700, 800, 900 can counterbalance millions, tens of millions of people who are operating below that scale, or below 200. And what that means is it's not a matter of how many people are awake, but how awake we allow ourselves to be. If we are vibrating to unity consciousness, it only takes a few people. This group of people, this circle of people, once we learn how to do this, can transform a whole culture. So later today we'll be doing some Inca work also on transforming Hucha into Sami. Hucha is the breaks and the resistance to flow. And our bodies know how to do this. We just have to retrain our bodies. And once we do this, we can tune in. Okay, so there's the White House over there, there's the Pentagon over there. Let's take in some hucha and transform it. And so a small group of people can begin to create enormous changes on the planet, because we have been given the right as part of the collective to be co-creators. So far we've been co-creating misery. No reason we cannot co-create joy. So that's our role and that's our privilege.
Castaneda put it that way, is, you know, whether you make yourself happy or make yourself miserable, it takes the same amount of energy.
Actually, it takes more energy to create misery.
Yeah, actually, when you think about it, doesn't it? Because it's so much against our nature to go in that direction. It takes a huge amount of energy to turn ourselves into exactly the opposite of who we are. It's quite a trick. That's why the last thing I'll say, we've been given this image that we are these poor, pathetic human beings that need all this help from the other world. It's exactly the opposite. We are the ones that have been willing to go and turn ourselves upside down, and to do that, and inside out, and to do that takes tremendous consciousness, courage, maybe some insanity thrown in there to be willing to do it. I don't know, but the thing is, the ones we who are emerging from this cycle are being honored by the galactic, because no one else has been willing to pay the price of separation, to forget so much, to go into such density. Most don't want to do that, aren't willing. So don't give ourselves a lot of credit, you know.
Yeah, to come in from galactic sources, to come into the earth plane, to consciously choose to forget, so we can enter into the vibration of the matrix, and then transform the matrix.
Think about that.
That's our mission.
And it's a very painful process to get
Say,
in.
say that again.
So it's like we're consciously choosing to step into the insanity, to transform the insanity into beauty.
Oh,
But the early part of our lives, we have experienced a lot of suffering and pain, because we've become so caught up in the insanity of the world. We think this is the only reality there is. And now we're waking up to that. So as we start waking up, it gets faster and faster,
okay,
easier and easier.
so first of all, we're experiencing, this is what happens in our lives. We experience the insanity or horror, tragedy, or those things in our lives,
Yeah.
and then we change them into becoming better and thinking positive and becoming loving, and so
And we're changing
we do
it
that.
for everybody else too.
Oh, because everybody is doing, so many people are doing it.
So it makes it easier and easier for everybody.
Yeah.
So
It's
here in this
facilitating.
group, we can support each other in breaking through our own fears, our own illusions and patterns, to go to the next level. And it's much easier when we can support each other than when you're trying to do it all by yourself, because it's a collective energy field.
Okay. Thanks.
So shall we take a short break?
Let's say 3 times.